Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this customer webinar. Today, Christine Masters, Director of Product Management for Town News, will introduce Programmatic Ads for BLOX Email Reach, the turnkey, free way to add targeted banners, native ads, and paid recommendations to your email newsletters and automated email alerts. In the room, we also have Doug Green, Product Manager, and I'm Cherry Wolf, Marketing Specialist for Town News. The presentation should take less than 30 minutes and a Q&A will follow. At any point, you can type a question into the chat box, but we'll wait to answer them at the end. Today's webinar is being recorded and will be available early next week. Christine, are you ready?
Yes. Doug is going to start us off on a little bit of the introduction here. So I will hand you that to.
Yes. So today we're going to be talking a little bit about our new product, and we're also going to be taking a quick look at some best practices as well for just your email lists in general. One of the things we want to take a look at is why email newsletters are still one of the most important tools for you. We'll talk about generating some revenue from the email newsletters and automated email alerts, and engaging with subscribers in a bunch of different ways, including banner ads, native ads, and paid recommendations. So why are email newsletters still important? Because they will allow you to reach out to customers where they check regularly. People sign up for email newsletters because they are signing up for things that they are already interested in. So they're already asking you for that type of information. They are not dependent on a third party like Facebook or Twitter. What that means is Facebook and Twitter can change their algorithms at any given moment without any type of warning. We've seen that happen before. You're in control of your email newsletter, when that goes out, when those are being sent to folks. So you don't have to wait on somebody else to be making changes and maybe change your entire strategy. And again, it's an efficient way or a good way to repurpose existing content or feature new content. What we mean by that is you have a week's best stories newsletter that you can send those out, obviously, or things like breaking news, highlighting content for anything that may be happening this weekend or anything like that. So those are a couple of good ways that you can kind of leverage your email newsletters. So with that, we're going to be introducing our programmatic banner ads. With that, then I will turn the controls over to Christine, and she will talk a little bit about.
Yeah, so we're really excited to introduce this new program today. We have been kind of shopping around to a lot of different partners looking for, just in general, we love looking for partners that we can bring to the table to kind of offer to our news organizations in order to kind of create additional ways for you to monetize your content. And I think this is a really great example of that, where kind of through the power of the network of Town News, we're able to work with a vendor to make this type of program available to you. In this case, we have been working with a company called Power Inbox. We actually talked around to a couple of different vendors in this area, and Power Inbox, we kind of brought this idea to them about a way to make this these kind of email monetization really scalable and really easy to set up. Obviously, if this took Town News hours and hours to set up per newsletter, it would not be really scalable for us or for our media organizations. But Power Inbox was able to work with us and kind of create a scalable solution that we have partnered on. And I think that it's going to be great for all involved. Power Inbox, just in general, is a company. They've been around for about 5 years. They're on a couple of different industry lists as one of the fastest growing private companies, and they do approximately 2 billion emails a month that they're monetizing on behalf of publishers. So we're really excited to work with them and to be able to kind of partner with them and able to bring their services to a whole bunch of publishers at once. And so again, kind of that scale is what allows this program to be efficient for all of us involved. In this particular case, the system works specifically with BLOX and BLOX email reach, we actually had to do the way that all these different email systems work, as well as the way our system works with a couple of different vendors. There's about 5 different businesses kind of involved in the process of sending out these emails to your end users. And we had to do, a couple of, it's taken us about a year to kind of bring this to the table. We've had to do multiple software releases, a lot of different testing. We had to actually develop some loopholes through how our system works in order to make sure that everything works end to end. So it's been a lot of work to set this up and get this to work together, but we have that working now, so we're really excited to bring that to the table. But as of right now, if you're using another email service provider to send out your newsletters, it's not available for you at this time. If you are interested in just seeing, I think that depending on the size of your list, it may be a situation where the monetization within your newsletters can pay for the cost of moving to BLOX email reach. So that if you're working with another vendor right now, that is something that you might want to talk to your salesperson about, is, whether using this program in combination with email reach will actually make that a much more affordable product, or even free for you. So that's something to consider if you are using another vendor. So essentially what happens is that we work with Power Inbox to get ad positions created for you. We have a new block that is available as of, I think, yesterday. And you'll work with a project manager to set up the system, and we get just basically, it's 11 different blocks that you end up with, which showcase different ads of different sizes. And then we work with your project manager to set those up throughout your different newsletters. In terms of the sizes that are available, there's a leaderboard size, which essentially is just it's larger than kind of a web leaderboard. It's sized for the kind of an email, and it resizes based on the device size that you're reading the email on. The way that we've set that up, there's both, just in terms of the product offering we have here, there's banner ads that are available, and there's also native text ads that are available. What we did with the leaderboard is we made it banners only. So those are kind of the more traditional looking banner advertisements. And we made it so that none of the native or the text ads would show up in that case. And in that way, it's more, it's more palatable to kind of put that up towards the top of the list, where you can have it at the top of the email, because you're just going to get those kind of traditional looking banners at the top. And that also gives you a better click-through rate on them at the top. But we also have a medium rectangle and a skyscraper size. Those ones will be a mix of banner ads and native ads, depending on which one is has the highest offer. And then in addition, we also have spots that are just native ads, so that you can, if you want to, you can choose to have a leaderboard at the top. Then in between some of your stories, you might want to have a native ad. And then there's another block for paid recommendations. So similar to what you have on the web for either Taboola or Outbrain, there are now paid recommendations that you can kind of put towards the bottom of a list of stories to essentially have different options available to them to click to once they're done reading that email. So again, there's multiple versions of these that will be set up by default. I think it's a couple of leaderboards, a couple of medium rectangles, 1 skyscraper, 2 in-feed native ads, and 1 paid recommendations. So those are all set up by default as a block, and then you can choose which of those you want to use in your newsletters. I would not recommend using all of them, obviously, but we would recommend having that leaderboard towards the top, and then maybe 1 or 2 throughout the rest of the email. Just in terms of the way that this works, obviously this is something that's really easy to set up. We've built a very scalable program around this. You talk to your sales rep, we get a contract, we can get this set up within several days. It operates as a revenue share program. So Town News takes a percentage of the proceeds, and in order for us to do maintenance, work with the vendor, work with the setup, continue support over time. And then what we do is in 60 days in arrears, we will basically take that revenue share and deduct it off the fees that you have from Town News over time. We do this with several different programs that we have currently, different like a Taboola or like other types of programmatic ads. We do as a rev share back as part of the monthly bill. And we actually now have, kind of just in combination of all the different revenue programs that we have, I think, a couple hundred publishers at this point who we write them a check every month. So instead of sending a bill, we write you a check, which we want to try to do that with everybody. We love that. But I think that this is just, again, another way that we can work with these different vendors and make this program available to you that in partnership we can help you monetize your site. So Doug is going to talk a little bit more about best practices for emails in general.
Okay, so one of the first things we want to talk about is your open rates, and you want to make sure that you're monitoring those. Right now in the media industry, currently the opening rate is around 30%. That's kind of the number you kind of want to be shooting for. So you want to be able to kind of have a good feel of that and kind of where you are in relationship with that number. That does sometimes, depending upon on vendors and things, depends upon whether you're going to show up in the inbox or in the spam folder. So you do want to kind of make sure that you are, the higher your open rate, the more chances that you're going to have to make sure that you're landing in that inbox so that people will see you. What you want to make sure to do now is to make sure that your subscribers really want your email. Back in the day, this was more of kind of a numbers game of you really wanted to make sure that you had a lot of people signed up for things. So signing up with contests and list purchases, you were really trying to accumulate the number of contacts. That's not really the way that it works anymore. You really want to have that open rate is really kind of the key number that you're after. So you want to make sure that the people that are signing up for your email, that they're getting your email, they're opening your email, that they're paying attention to that email. So that's really what you're after nowadays. And to do that, you're going to need to review and clean up your list on a regular basis. Go in, maintain those, check on those things. Make sure that if somebody hasn't opened it in a long time, that maybe that you're culling that list a little bit. Creating new and unique lists. What content is popular on your website? If you've got a piece of content, a columnist per se, that is all that people are visiting your site on, that's one of your popular sections on your site. That's a good place to create a brand new email list, generate so that goes out immediately out to folks when that new content is being populated, so that they don't have to come to your site and actively look for that. That can be a passive service to them. Creating specialized newsletters and promoting them on that related section. So if you do have, like I said, a columnist or your sports coverage, your theater coverage, anything like that, if you have a dedicated section to it, allow folks to have the ability to sign up for a newsletter that is dedicated to just that specific section, so that if they are interested in that topic, that they can have that immediately sent to them. And then alerting users to the content that they're interested in, that's really providing a service to them. That way, like I said, they don't have to actively go out and search for that content. They know that they like your columnists. They know that they want to know about the theaters that are having a play production this weekend in your community, those types of things. They want to know about that already, so do not feel like you are bombarding them, because they are already by signing up for the email list, they're telling you that they're interested in that content. So all you're doing is providing them access to that content.
If I could add just a little bit to that too. I mean, so one thing to think of after you sign up with this program is we'll be able to have, in general, kind of a calculation as to how much money, on average, obviously, that you make each time you send out an email to this many people. So now it becomes kind of a situation where it's monetarily worth it to look through your site, see which, like Doug was saying, see which things are popular. By, each time you send out this list, you make $40. So now try to think about ways that instead of sending that once a week, maybe it would be a good idea. Again, you don't want to, enrage the users so that they're not opening it because you want to keep that open rate high. But can you send this out twice a week instead of once a week? And now you've doubled your money on that list. And that's the kind of thing that you want to kind of start looking at is this is a way that, in terms of selling ads or in terms of, getting sponsors on things, those are things that it requires more effort to go out and find those advertisers. This is something where you can literally say, let's put together a newsletter for this, and you're making $100 a month for that. Let's put together a newsletter, and you're making $40 a month for that. You can kind of start putting these things together to create these programs that are, multiple hundreds of dollars. And again, those things, it really starts adding up over time. So it's a really good exercise, and it's really worth it to look at what's popular and put together, an obituaries list. Obituaries are hugely popular. Sending out an obituaries list each day of just listing out the different obits for that day. People will sign up for that. Those are the types of things that obviously with advertising you have to be very careful in terms of placement, and but a tasteful email towards the middle of that thing is very possibly something that you could do there, and then you're monetizing that email.
And one of the other things that you can do is offer a variety of email alerts. You can create automatic alerts with our BLOX notifier, not just things like breaking news, weather alerts, and traffic. Those are some of the big ones, but you can also, like we mentioned, every time a columnist generates a new column, those types of things, those can be things that can be sent out. One thing that will be coming soon that we can tell you folks about is going to be follow notifications. So if you are signing up to follow a particular search, you will have the ability to place these ads on those particular emails that get sent out, those notifications for when new search items come up.
Okay. We do have a couple questions, and just a reminder, go ahead and put those in the questions box and we'll get those answered. First question, can we target native ads to the block using keywords or based on the newsletter?
The native ads themselves will be targeted to the actual user. So they're essentially by using the information of the user being signed up for that email, the company is actually able to target ads specifically to that user based on their browsing habits, based on other information that's available to them. So no, it will be specific to that particular user.
Can we target programmatic on the breaking news newsletter?
Yes, we can. And again, there's two different types of breaking news that might be sent out. You might have an actual email newsletter that's set up through BLOX email reach, and that will again have a block, and you can place those blocks onto that page. But there's also breaking news that might go out through as an alert through the BLOX notifier system. That is not a newsletter page. That's actually scraped from the story page itself, like an email-friendly version of the story page. But we have utility regions now that are available on those alert pages, so we can help set up the ads on those pages as well. So we definitely want to try to monetize all of the different types of emails that you are sent out of the system, and make sure that we're taking advantage of all those different places.
You mentioned earlier on this that it will only work with town news emails and not third-party emails. Can you clarify that?
So if you're using another third-party email service provider like What Counts or MailChimp, I think it's MailChimp or MailChimp, one of those other types of newsletters, even if you are using that system to scrape the town news pages, which some people do, in that situation, again, we kind of poked a hole through the system so that it worked particularly with the vendor constant contact that we use as part of the email reach program. So as of right now, these ads will specifically work with the BLOX email reach system itself. So if you're using another one of those vendors, they will not work. Feel free to contact us as kind of a feature request if if you're unable to switch to our program, we can talk about it. And but as of right now, like I said, we have to do software updates in order to kind of make this happen end to end. So it will only work with our system right now.
Is revenue based on impressions, click-throughs, or what metric?
That's a really good question. So this is actually a cost per click type scenario, which is not unheard of kind of in the email world, where remember that only a certain number of people will open the email. So you'll only get credit for people who open the email. And then in addition, only a certain number of people, about half of the opens, will actually load graphics on the page. So again, you don't really get credit for ads if they don't have graphics on the page. So with that being said, this particular scenario is a cost per click basis. But that being said, we can look at in terms of, we take the averages of the number of clicks that went through in order to kind of give a revenue per newsletter estimate.
Do you have a percentage or a guesstimate on how much we could make?
So, we're just launching the system now. We have 2 beta customers that are operating on this. So of course these numbers might fluctuate over time, and obviously because it is kind of cost per click basis, as depending on the type of ads that user gets targeted and where the ads shows up in the page, things can vary. However, I can give you kind of a conservative estimate just for the purposes of, just kind of, again, judging if you are using a different email provider, if you want to switch to this. So what I've been doing thus far, and this is a little bit of I'll tell you my methodology right now. You might not be able to kind of follow exactly what I'm saying. If so, just feel free to send in a ticket and we can kind of work with you on this. But what I would estimate right now is that you look at the number of opens that you have and then cut that in half. Again, for the number of people that load graphics, we're looking at about a 50% rate of people who are loading graphics in terms of the newsletters that we have so far. So if you have 10,000 opens, then you cut that in half, and then so you're looking at about 5,000 kind of impressions. And I would say that we would probably estimate about, and again, this is kind of a conservative estimate, but we're thinking that it might level off over time. So we're looking at probably about a $1 CPM rate, and you could probably get to about a $2 per page. So again, this is like a $2 RPM, which would mean like a revenue per 1,000 opened graphics loaded newsletters, if that makes sense. So once you take that 50% newsletter, I would do about a $1 to $2 RPM on that. And then that would be the guesstimate that I would have for your site. So again, we can kind of work through that with you if you want to kind of send in a ticket and give us those numbers. We can walk you through that and see what your estimate is. But again, it kind of depends on the placement of the ad on the page, how many ads you have, and how many, obviously, newsletters, how many opens that you have as well. So there's a lot of kind of dependencies there. But that's my kind of calculations right now in terms of the CPMs and the RPMs, if that makes sense. Maybe not, but send a ticket.
Yes. It didn't make sense. Will these ads run through DFP?
From a technical perspective, they are through through Google Ad Manager, but it's the Power Inbox's Google Ad Manager account. So they're not through your DFP.
Can we use our own local ads and advertorials instead of programmatic?
So right now, it is possible to offer this with the vendor that we're working with, but it really makes the setup process a lot more complex. So right now we're not offering this as offering that as part of the program right now. However, these can be just additions to whatever you have on the page currently. So if you're using BLOX Ad Manager to place ads on a page, or just an email or just an image with a sponsor on the page or something like that, you can still have that sponsor there and then just add programmatic ads in addition to those other things if you want to do that. So keep doing what you're doing now and then just add this to it.
Yeah, add this on top. Do you see paid subscriber newsletters to reward subscribers?
So I think that the question is it as an idea of having as part of a membership program or a subscriber program, having a subscriber only newsletter. So I can we definitely have people doing that. So kind of as part of signing up for a subscription to the site, you add them to a subscriber only mail list and then send out mail lists to just those people every day. So that is definitely something that you could do. It is a good point that, obviously if your content is behind a paywall, that if you do have situations where some content is behind the paywall and some isn't, we actually have, in terms of the email blocks themselves, there's the capability of showing an icon whenever something is behind a paywall. So you could still actually create a newsletter and then just have, for the paywalled content, have a little key icon next to it to indicate that it's a paid item, and then the rest of the stuff is free, and then you can differentiate between them. So that way, if somebody does want to sign up for one of those lists that isn't a subscriber, they would see which content they can read or not. So that's a possibility along that line too.
Would you recommend using this by different departments, such as sales department to sell advertising, classifieds, etc., such as a special editions advertising opportunities?
I mean, essentially the types of ads that you will get through this will be, again, kind of targeted to the user, so they'll be more specific to that particular user. However, I would definitely recommend to have a bunch of different types of newsletters. The newsletters are really easy to set up, and then they just run based on the content that you're adding to your website every day. So you don't have to do any work on a day-to-day basis to create an obits email or to create a sports email or anything like that. They just run off of the type of content that you already have in your site. So if you do have a scenario, you can create a classifieds email, for example. You could set up something that, I don't know about every day, but once a week you can say, here are the new classified ads that have come out this week, and have an email that goes out with just classified ads. You could have an email that goes out with calendar events. You can have businesses, like the top businesses of the week, or different businesses for different types of content. So all of those different types of assets can be showcased on either an existing newsletter, or you can create new newsletters for those types of things. So we've got, in terms of the CMS itself, there's a lot of power to kind of create different newsletters for different types of things. So it kind of just, again, it matters of what are the people of your site interested in, and what are the types of things that they would like to have delivered to their inbox every morning. Weather is another one. If you have today's forecast, we have weather blocks that are available. You can create a weather newsletter that just goes out in the morning that has today's forecast and a couple of news items, and then an ad in there, and then you can be making good money off that. So there's a lot of different of those types of ideas.
Okay. So will we schedule these ads through Google Ad Manager?
No, this will just be a block that you place on the page, and then everything else is taken care of. So it is technically done through Ad Manager on the Power Inbox side, but there's nothing that you have to do, or there's no tags that you have to add, or there's nothing that you have to do in your Google Ad Manager at all. It all happens through BLOX.
Is there any way to know what ads are running in our newsletter? I'm concerned about the kinds of ads that will run and if they will be relevant to our audience.
So what I would recommend is, so a couple of things about that, because that's probably one of the things that we've been tweaking the most as we've been setting this up. There's a lot of different knobs that they can turn. I'm just envisioning they're probably not real knobs, but so there's a lot of different knobs that they can turn to change the types of content that is displayed, and the kind of the mix of different revenue partners that they have that can participate. And we've actually done a lot of that already. We have a big list of different categories that we actually block by default, because they tend towards more performance-based ads, which is, they tend to look more like aggressive or might have weird medical ads or things like that. So we already have blocked a bunch of those types of categories or just things in general that would be not appropriate on a news site. So we've blocked those in general. But we are kind of continuing to watch in general and tweak things. This program specifically is it's really a no-brainer when it comes down to it. There's no monthly fees. If you want to remove something from any list, you just literally delete the block and then it's not there. There's no minimum fees. There's no setup fees. It's really easy to do. So if you want to kind of see the types of ads that you're going to get, again, it is targeted to the user. So you're not going to see like every single ad that's available per se, but you can actually go in and set up a test newsletter page, sign up for the system, create a test newsletter page, put the ads on the page, and then you can send a test just to yourself and then see the types of ads that you get. And then, obviously you can kind of play around with different ads and see what you feel comfortable with. So that's definitely something you do. And like I said, if you don't like it, if you want to, play around with the different types of blocks that are available, that's something that you can do at that point in time. I will say that that's one of the things that, when I mentioned that we don't have the native ads showing up in the leaderboard, that leaderboard, we've kind of turned down a lot of those types of, we've made that a much more brand safe and traditional spot so that it is more kind of brand safe. So that one is something where if you don't feel comfortable with those other ads, you can just use the leaderboard ad, and that is kind of more traditional advertising. It might be lower CPMs, but that's something that you can experiment with.
Great. And you answered this question, is there a minimum and cost per CPC? You said there's no minimums.
Yeah, no minimums on either side. So, yeah.
If we already use the Town News newsletter, can I set the ad blocks up myself, or do I still need to have you do it?
We have to sign a contract so that we're able to pay you for the ads. But after we kind of get the system set up for you, you have those blocks that are available. They are just blocks in the system, so you could, if you know how to use the kind of the blocks system, you could move those around and change them as you want. So and that's in that way you would also, if you wanted to create a new newsletter, you just use those same ad blocks and place them on the newsletter. You can use them on multiple newsletters. You can just use one of the ads per page. So each ad ID can only be used once per page, but you can use that same ad ID on multiple newsletters.
BLOX email reach is based on Constant Contact. So what if we have a custom template e-letter built on Constant Contact, but it's delivered outside of BLOX email reach? Will programmatic ads still work?
Probably not. I would, if you want to send in a ticket, we can look specifically at what you're doing, but most likely it has to work specifically with our system and going through the email reach system. And like I said, it's kind of, again, we had to kind of poke holes in it so that it works end to end. So it really needs to be working with that system.
Are there any webinars that overview the BLOX email reach platform? Yes, there are. We've done some in the past, and we can link to those when we send this out so you can have that information. Those can be found on our website. But if you want more information, feel free to contact your sales rep and we can get that for you. We can do a demo as well.
Yep.
Okay.
And there is some materials available on our help site about this. So there's kind of an FAQ, and it lists the different categories that we have blocked and specifically the different ad sizes that are set up and that sort of thing. So you can go to the help.bloxcms.com and search for that. And
Doug, did you have something you wanted to add? Okay. There's many ways to stay connected with us. Like Christine mentioned, you can find help at help.bloxcms.com, documentation and other things. You can call our support line at 800-293-9576 or visit support.townnews.com. You can go to our partner community, community.townnews.com. That would be a great place to share ideas for newsletter lists or what you might be doing that would be a little bit different. Or you can ask what other publishers are doing. You can check the service of our the status of our servers at townnews.status.io. You can follow us on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, or YouTube, and you can sign up for one of our many newsletters. If you registered for today's webinar, you are now on our webinar announcements newsletter list, and you will receive recordings and upcoming webinars. So thank you very much, Christine and Doug, and let us know if you want to learn more.